Hi, this is my review of The Gates of Azyr. The Gates of Azyr is a novel that serves as an introduction to the Warhammer Age of Sigmar universe. I purchased the starter box a few days ago, well, about like a week and a half, more or less. And when I finish playing all of the scenarios, I will give my thoughts on that starter box and on the business model and Age of Sigmar system as a whole. Well, let's talk about the quality of this book. This book looks really nice and it's quite sturdy. It's a hardcover. It's probably the most sturdy hardcover book in small format that I own, or one of the most sturdy. The cover feels quite glossy. It feels really nice, and the rest of it feels somewhat porous, slightly porous. So it feels really nice, and this book will last a long time because there are some books that have really nice hardcovers, but when you open them like this, they go like horribly. But this one is it's pretty good, and the quality of the paper is good. I didn't find any typos, which is always nice. And the font is also quite easy on the eyes. Now, let's talk about the contents of the book. Well, this book was written by Chris Wright. Wright, sorry. He has written other Warhammer novels in the past, but this is my first time reading one of his works. Well, The Gates of Azyr starts really good. They give you this really somewhat bleak and chaotic setting where the forces of chaos have taken control over the entire universe, almost. It kind of feels like that. The realms are threatened by the control of chaos, by that darkness of those forces that serve the gods of chaos, especially because that's the theme of this novel, the Gorn, the blood god, blood for the blood god. And so there is hope yet in the form of the Stormcast Eternals, these warriors in golden armor. Now, the Stormcast Eternals are basically heroes that Sigmar, let's say, rescued from different perilous situations, and he reforged them as the ultimate fighting men. Now, the book starts presenting a really clear picture on how bad things are. And you see these blood rivers, a very savage tribe of cannibals chasing down these decent humans that haven't sold their souls to chaos, so to speak. And the way that their cannibalistic acts and savage acts are described are just really nice. I could imagine the blood pouring down their chins as they started eating guts and skin and such. And so it's a very dire situation. Now, one of the things that I think is a bit of a negative in this book is that I think they take a long time introducing the arrival of the Stormcast Eternals, because they are in another world, in a sort of like a paradise realm, so to speak. It feels a bit like Valhalla, but they have to send a small strike force to open a gate between worlds and allow the rest of their forces to go through the gate and rescue the realm of Akshi. And this is a very interesting take, because usually it's the other way around. You have the bad guys invading these realms through some sort of Lovecraftian gate, but here it's the good guys that are kind of fighting back. They are taking back what was taken from them. But as I was telling you, it feels like it takes just too long to introduce the Stormcast Eternals, and it kind of feels like do you remember in Monty Python where you see Sir Lancelot attacking a castle, and he's charging and running at that castle, and the guards of the castle are kind of looking at him in the distance, and he keeps running and running and running, and they keep looking at him, and he's just like a small dot in the distance, and he basically takes a long time to get there, so it kind of feels like that with the Stormcast Eternals. Now, the middle part of the book, the battle is really cool. It has some really awesome moments, but I feel like this the momentum of the battle is somewhat slowed down or diminished as the book moves forward. There are some really excellent moments. Some of them reminded me of one of the Dawn of War games where you are controlling the Imperial Guard, and you have this chaplain with a group of soldiers fighting against this demon, this bloodthirster, and the bloodthirster is basically killing everyone, and the chaplain is kind of like, hold the line, damn it, like that, and he fights against this bloodthirster alone, and he kills it, and it looks really cinematic and really cool. And there is a similar moment here in the Gates of Azyr, and those are just some really excellent moments in the story, but I don't think they keep that level of consistency later on, because later on you start seeing the plot armor, the Games Workshop or GW plot armor over some characters, and you're going to be like, oh, that character is not going to die, or that character is not going to get maimed or whatever, because he's basically a signature character, and they're going to save that character for some other novel or etc., and you're going to notice that. And in that way, and in some other more subtle ways, the book is somewhat predictable, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. In this case, I think it is. But for example, there are many other books that are predictable, and you're like, wait for it, and it happens, and you're like, oh, that was awesome, just like I expected it to happen. But here in the Gates of Azyr, you're like, wait for it. That was it. So that's a bit of a downside. And once you get to the more climactic moments, they were a bit disappointing to me as well, because there is a very well, they try to represent it as a very strong relation or a history between two of the characters, and this kind of relationship, it isn't developed further. In my opinion, it felt a bit lukewarm. They had this like mysterious past together, and when they actually revealed what happened between the two of them, it felt a bit lukewarm. There are some nice moments, but I think it could have been developed further and with a bit more power. And during the climactic confrontations, things felt a bit like a Saturday morning cartoon, a very bloody Saturday morning cartoon, but Saturday morning cartoonish nonetheless. Because even though they were supposedly delivering death blows and performing all these very savage, very brutal attacks, it kind of felt like they were shoving each other. So, because I always like it when two main characters fight, there has to be something that represents their level of power. Either one of them dies, and or one of them gets horrifyingly crippled or hurt. Because, for example, in real life, if two people who know what they're doing, they go at it with an intent to kill, one of those two people are going to die, or at the very least, and with the same level of skill, of course, and at the very least, one of them is going to suffer a crippling wound from which he may never recover, or maybe take like a lot of years to recover. So I didn't get that feeling of lethality and grittiness in the Gates of Azyr, even though they suffer some wounds, some pretty grave wounds. They're kind of like, oh, I'm okay, sort of like that. And there is this very climactic moment in the battle when one of the characters is ready to deliver the final blow, and you almost imagine this army of Games Workshop plot armor enforcers, so to speak, these characters kind of like separating the two, like break it up, and stopping that character from delivering the final blow. And I think that would have been better if one of the characters during that climactic moment killed the other. It would have felt more real, or at the very least delivered something more like maybe cut off an arm or something. It would have been better, in my opinion, more gritty. Well, overall, let me tell you what I think of the Gates of Azyr. It's not that it's a bad book, but it's just like a decent book. It could have been a lot better. It could have been one of those books. For example, I remember with great. I have very fond memories of the Godric and Felix novels and the Fell Cargo. Some of the books of Dan Abnett. One was called Deus en Carmine, I think. And those books really represent that level of grittiness that I was telling you about. And I didn't see that in the Gates of Azyr to the point that I don't feel as excited of getting another Age of Sigmar novel. Maybe there are better novels, or maybe this author has written better works, or maybe there are other authors that represent the Age of Sigmar better. But this novel didn't get me as excited because the setting is great. I think the setting is excellent, and the first half of the book, if the author had kept that level of consistency, it would have been amazing. But then everything felt just really lukewarm at the end. So if you're planning to get this novel, just keep in mind that that the later half of the book could be somewhat disappointing. Well, thanks for watching my review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. See you later.